Okay, time to talk about that 1-2 punch of nutrition and supplementation. So, when it comes to nutrition, there is no perfect approach because you're ultimately going to have those those pokes or those holes in your nutrition. So, this is where supplementation comes in handy and fixes those holes in essence. So, what you got to look at is when it comes to a nutritional approach, you kind of have to ditch the labels in the sense of I'm following paleo, for instance. You don't necessarily want to put yourself in a box of only following paleo or carnivore or keto, vegetarian, vegan, or whatever. What you want to do is use those as, in a sense, labels, and that's it. So that way, when you can convey a sense of what types of foods you're eating instead of sitting there explaining I eat the X, Y, and Z, and people are what's that approach? You can say, well, I eat like a paleo type approach or like a carnivore type of approach. People get the concepts. That's the only good way of the only good thing on those labels is so that way people get the concept of your approach and everything. So with the nutrition, what you got to look at is your macronutrients of protein, carbs, and fats, and your micronutrients of all your vitamins and minerals, and look at the foods that you like to eat and that you know you can stick to on a consistent daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, decade approach and everything. So if you like eating pork, for instance, but you absolutely despise eating chicken, why are you going to sit there and well, this diet approach or this nutritional plan says I should be eating chicken, but you absolutely despise chicken? You're not going to stick with it. But if you enjoy eating pork, you're going to substitute pork in for chicken and everything. Now, of course, you also got when mentioned in macronutrients, so you got to look at your breakdown and not necessarily overdo it any of them protein, carbs, or fats or whatever. So have a balanced approach. Okay, maybe I'm having a pork and everything, my fat intake's a little higher with that, so maybe I stick with I do like eating fish, so maybe I eat some cod or whatever, which is kind of lower in fat but still high. Both of those are good protein sources. So of course I'm using the animal-based approach as examples and everything. So if you're following you do find that a vegan or a vegetarian approach is good, then you might have to sit there and kind of take what I'm saying and kind of be okay, well, this is what he's saying as examples. Let me figure out a way that works for me based on his overall messaging of do what works best for you. And then of course when you break it down and you find out which foods work best for for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and maybe a couple snacks and everything, then you sit there and you look at this is where the having gone over the calorie counters before in videos, previous videos, that helps you break down your nutritional content. Okay, well, you can get that good viewpoint of your numbers and everything, and get a good ballpark general idea on what you take in. Now, is it going to be absolutely precise oh, I'm taking in 225 grams of protein a day, and I'm taking in 150 grams of carbs and 20 grams of fat and everything every single day, and you're eating the same stuff? There's going to be that variation of what you get from whatever grocery store you get. So that does give you an idea, a good ballpark figure. I would say probably a good 95% accuracy of what you're intaking and everything. So then what you do is you look at your micronutrients, like I said, your vitamins and minerals and everything. You look where you're deficient in, then you start taking in the supplementation, the stuff that I've talked about in the previous videos, the last week's with the greens and everything. That would be a good one to kind of supplement your micronutrients, a multivitamin, and then you should, with that 1-2 punch in that in combination with your nutrition, whatever nutritional approach you take, then you will be golden with your macro and micronutrients. Then you can start branching out into other supplementation of course, another big factor before you start branching out with other supplementation is always the finances. So like you might not necessarily be able to go much beyond the things I just mentioned, but then like you actually have like a good foundation with just that stuff and everything. So you might not necessarily need these extra supplements I'm going to mention. But like if you do find that you can get stuff like this, then like you start branching out into like the other supplements I've mentioned, fish oil, joint supplements, like creatine is another good supplement, like protein powders, like you can consider those a food source because you're getting like macronutrients and micronutrients out of it. So, but for the sake of argument, you can also say, here you go, here's a supplement. So there's another supplement that you can do. So if you find that you're deficient in like protein, like for instance, say you're following a vegan approach, and you find that you're only hitting maybe 130 grams of protein. This is where like the protein powder comes in. It's like, okay, well, I'm following vegan or vegetarian and I want to stick with plant-based proteins. You can get those, and like you're going to like per scoop, you're going to get 25 to 30 grams of protein. So you take like a couple of those, you're going to be getting at least another 50 grams of like protein. So there's like where you can supplement like a deficiency in a macronutrient. Then you like look at like the typical bodybuilder supplements, like your pre-workouts, your intra-workouts, and like your post-workout supplements. Like pre-workouts usually like there are like two different approaches. You can do like the stimulant ones that give you beta alanine, citrulline malate, and like caffeine and stuff like that. But if you're someone who doesn't necessarily want to do that kind of pre-workout, or you may be kind of sensitive that the stimulants and everything, there are non-stimulant pre-workouts that you can use, and the pre, intra, and post-workout supplements, while not necessary, they are beneficial. Now, like intra workouts, like if you're having like long workouts, then that's where the intra workouts come into play. So if you're looking at like a hour and a half, 2 hour long workout and everything, that's where the intra workout comes into play and helps you out get into those long sessions that you're doing. Now, of course, if you're doing only like half an hour session, like maybe you're like a parent and like are strapped for time and you're only doing half hour, you could do away with the intra workout and quite possibly the post workout, because a lot of times post workouts are you're just getting like some of them have like dextrose or whatever, like to kind of get you like the extra carbs in there to kind of replenish the glycogen and the energy stores that you just used, that you just pretty much like burnt through in your workout and everything. So now those three, like I said, aren't necessary, but they are beneficial. So you can look into that, and you can also look into like quite possibly like other other supplements. Like if you find, like I'll use myself as an example, I tend to supplement with iron 3 times a week. I take an iron supplement. It has good the supplement that I take usually has about 350% based on 2,000 calorie diet. So I have found that by taking that 3 times a week, that helps maintain my iron levels. So I recently just started using magnesium as a supplement and everything. So there's another idea. So like again, you're looking at like your micronutrients and like whatever you're deficient in. So of course, no nutritional approach is going to be perfect and cover all your bases. So this is where the supplementation comes into play. Like I mentioned, the iron that I take, the magnesium, you take the multivitamin, and of course, like also I've mentioned like other stuff that you can take, like fish oil, joint supplements, and that's getting older. That's where the joint supplements can come into play and everything. So it can help in recovery. So like there are articles and stuff and everything like that you can go out and look at. So I know Arnold Schwarzenegger puts out a podcast and he puts out articles and stuff, and so he's a decent source to be able to like get into like kind of the academic and like the scientific perspective, and kind of like okay, get a better general idea on how this stuff actually works and everything. So this is like the good 1-2 punch that I mentioned that like you can do in getting your nutrition in order. So this is probably like the hardest thing to do, but the benefits and the payoff is going to be so much better like once you get everything in order. Now in my path, like when I first started in the gym, I lost a good 50 pounds in the first 6 months, and like and I didn't really do much to fix my nutrition. then of course I hit a plateau, and for 6 months after that first 50-pound loss, I hit like that plateau where like I was not losing anything. I fixed my nutrition by getting in like proper nutrition and proper supplementation. I lost like a good another 25 pounds in the third 6-month block and everything. So in a sense, it took me like a year and a half to lose 75 pounds, but the payoff was that I got my training and nutrition in check. So it's not necessarily linear, but if you're making progress trying to do get your nutrition and like supplementation and making those tweaks along the way, the payoffs are going to be that much better. So this is why you want to have that 1-2 punch of getting your nutrition and your supplementation in order.